welcome to another edition of the Two Steps Ahead podcast. Two Steps Ahead podcast, highlighting the stuff we've stepped in so you don't have to. My name is Son Edom, alongside somebody who has just recently been cast as the lead role of Michelle in Romeo and Michelle's grad school reunion.
Hey guys, welcome back. Be sure to check that out.
Okay, not really, but I was actually watching the movie and the other day, and I was kind of glad I did because I finally found out who invented Post-its. I was confused.
Tell us.
Romy.
Okay.
Do you ever see the movie?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's why
well, then you got to watch the movie. We are here actually on the road. As you can see, we don't have our usual backdrop. We're actually in an office, and we've actually got a guest with us, Dr. Irene Yaymadjian with us, and she does have a bit of an alphabet after her name, so I'm going to let her introduce herself to you so that you guys can know who Dr. Irene is.
Thank you, Son.
You're welcome.
The alphabet is PsyD. It's a doctorate in psychology, and it's LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist.
Yeah, so again, because we always talk about the stuff we've stand in and the stuff we go through, I kind of butchered the whole thing the first time around. That's why she got to take it the second time, because it was a mouthful.
We vetoed him. He
Yes.
does not do well with alphabet soup.
Now, you are a doctor of clinical psychology from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. What made you decide to do psychology?
Actually, when I was in high school, one of my best friends committed suicide.
Ooh.
And I did not know how to help him when he was really depressed. And I mean, in high school, you don't really know what on earth is going on. We're all depressed in some way. And so I just really got fascinated with actually suicide and figuring out why people wanted to kill themselves and what led the depression to get so bad. And then I just kind of took a route and never ended. At full force.
Wow. I guess one of the things that we're actually going to be talking about today, which kind of leads us into that, is taking care of ourselves, kind of the self-care type of thing, because I know a lot of times life can get to us and be stressful, and we don't know how to take care of ourselves. And sometimes, like I know for me, I can overdo it sometimes and like commit to too much, and then I realize that, wait a minute, what happened to me? And I know when I was working at the college, that happened quite a bit, where it was like overextending myself with the different students that I was trying to help. And I felt like if I said no, or if I didn't give them the time and this person the time and that person the time, I'd be failing in my job. But what I was really doing was failing me, because I started to then suffer from that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's what we're going to talk about, and then we'll see where the conversation goes. And I guess the first thing, Irene, is that if we are feeling, because you mentioned stress, and I know a lot of people are probably suffering from a lot of stress right now with everything going on. What's the first thing that we can do to manage those stressful feelings that we have?
I think it's important to know where your stress is coming from. You know, a lot of times we get very anxious because we don't know what we're stressed about, or what we think we're stressed about is not really what we're actually stressing about. So right now, I know a lot of people have been coming into therapy because of COVID. However, what has been kind of showing up more is they're actually more stressed about quarantine, because they're home, they have to look at themselves, they have to spend time with their family, or if they live alone, you know, they're just alone. And so really just pointing out what exactly is it that's stressing you out is going to be much more helpful than just kind of like, I'm just stressed out and I'm going nuts. So take a step back, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what am I stressed about? And start from there.
And do you find that people are surprised about what they're stressed about? Because maybe they come in for one thing and then they discover something else?
Absolutely. That happens more often than not. Sometimes people will come into therapy and they'll just, you know, be like, well, I'm just here. I'm not really depressed. I'm not very anxious. And then you start doing an intake with them and ask them all these questions. And most of the time they'll be like, I didn't even know that bothered me still. You know, I didn't know that that's where my anxiety was coming from. I didn't even know I was anxious. I just thought I was a hyper person, or that I was just, you know, very, you know, I don't know, irritated because, you know, I wasn't getting things done and so forth. So, yeah, no, it's absolutely an interesting thing once you start working with the mind. So teach people a lot about themselves.
I'm also sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm also very curious about you mentioned quarantine and people being stressed out because they're quarantined. Do you find that people's lives mask the busyness of their lives, kind of mask what's really going on? And now that everything is taken away and they're in quarantine, now all of a sudden issues become visible and problematic. Whereas before it was just kind of not as much of an issue because life was just, one thing to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good point that you're actually bringing up, because we get so caught up with what we need to do, and what needs to get done, and going to work and getting there on time, running around doing this. And so when you take all that away, then the reality hits you as to like, okay, so what are my actual, things that I need to focus on? And you realize that you have chosen a lot of things as excuses, to cover up for what you need to actually pay attention to. Maybe at home, your kids, your husband, your wife, your relationship, yourself, And so taking away the whole, I have to drive to work, I'm running late, what do I need to wear? All these little ridiculous things that in our mind that we sit there and we stress about, and then getting to work and getting things done and avoiding other things in our life. Absolutely. That quarantine took that all away and said, look at your life. Well, not to therapists. It just said, you still need to be a therapist. That was the one thing with our, job, and doctors, but yeah, it definitely took away, a lot of the external stuff and said, look at your life. This is what you're dealing with. And it kind of actually gave a lot of people a reset in a way. So it's had a lot of positive.
I was going to say, as we enter that new normal, maybe people will start to think about things in a different perspective than what we used to, because we've gotten accustomed now to a few months of having to just deal with our plain self, or just, I know a lot of people had to deal with the hair, she had to deal with hair issues for months because you couldn't get your hair done. You couldn't get your nails done. And so then it became like, okay, at one point that might have been a big deal, but now I'm not going to stress it because I can't. And so maybe now we have a little different perspective, and those type of things, I don't want to become superficial because they are important, but they're also not as important as maybe stuff on the inside, and taking care of our mind, taking care of our spirit, taking care of our insides versus the outside. And maybe people will have a more healthy approach to life as we get back to kind of like that new normal.
Yeah, and spending time with people that we don't really spend time with, but yet we call them our family, And so, yeah, absolutely. It's okay to pay attention to superficial stuff, like how does my hair look? What am I going to wear? How does this make me look? And so forth, because it just makes us feel better when, you're wearing such a pretty blouse. I'm sure you wore it because it makes you feel pretty, and I did my hair because I want to look human. If you see me at home, I don't look like this. So you have a nice hat on, and so all these little things, yes, they're superficial, but they are also important. So we can't separate it from life altogether.
In fact, before the show, I was trying to ask which hat, because I bring a variety of hats and try to match the hats with what I'm wearing. And so, yeah, it's important. He's
the real diva. Don't let him kid you.
Go to Instagram and you'll see that. Yes.
Walked.
Yes.
Walked.
He gave us
I did the cat rock and everything. Yes.
We chose one, then he asked it for sure. No,
yes.
Exactly.
And then I triple checked just to make sure, and then I did a straw poll.
Diva.
No. One of the things that I like to do for relaxation and just to try to get away is, one of the things I do is I like to go to the beach. Now, I know it doesn't have to be as complex when you're taking care of yourself. It could be the little things. I know, like, a lot of people like to get massages or like go to the spa day, or even just get your nails done. Sometimes going and get your mani-pedis are a good thing. I like just to go to the beach. I like to sit on the beach. And when I do the beach, it's not necessarily the beach activities like swimming in the ocean, playing volleyball, doing all that stuff. Sometimes it's just sitting on the beach, listening to music, maybe have some snacks there, and just kind of veg out for a while. And I like to do it in the evening, like the afternoon evening, because one, I'm white and I bake, and so I don't like to get burned. I don't like the SPF 5000 baking on me. So I do it when the sun is less intense, and then I like it as the sun goes down. It's just kind of a relaxing thing. And so that's one of the things that I like to do to just kind of de-stress and kind of take care of myself. And I find that it helps me to just kind of get rejuvenated to life, especially when life was even busier, to just kind of relax.
Mm-hmm. And I actually like to run. So last night I went out for a run, and I've been, I don't know, man, the last 3-4 months I have been in such a funk, which I feel bad for you guys listening that you're joining us new, because I have been in a little bit of a funk. But running really helps as opposed to walking. If I can get out and just really go fast, which I'm not, to me I'm like lightning speed, but in reality it's like a 12-minute mile, which is pretty slow. But if I run and force myself to get all that going, that is huge. It just, the endorphins come, the adrenaline comes, it just cleans out all the cobwebs.
It's nice that you can actually do that. I know a lot of people were so terrified of going outside because they were just like, oh my God, it lives in the air. We have to wear our masks. And I see people running with masks. And I'm
people
like,
have questioned me a couple of times. Yeah, and sometimes I get the stink eye on the trail. I cannot run with a mask.
Oh God, no, that's dangerous.
It's dangerous because you're not getting enough
You can
oxygen. Yes. So I wear the mask all the time except for, when I'm running. But there are people who... So it's kind of like a game. Like sometimes in the crosswalk, it's like a puzzle. Like, okay, no, you go here if there's a bunch of people at the same time. It's like, you go here, straight. You go there, you go.
I walk straight. I let people move around me.
Yeah.
Because if I move, then they move, and then we're just like doing this thing,
Right?
So
yeah.
I just go straight. I pretend I don't see the stink eye. I just smile. Looking at people, and that's about it.
So that's the one thing. First off, I like going to the beach because I like watching the endorphins swim in the ocean. But then two, so I was. This is kind of interesting because I just got back a couple weeks ago from Nebraska. I went and visited some family, and on the flight they had the middle seat empty, so you had your space, right? And so we've talked about irrational fear leads to irrational behavior, and so the people recommended, the flight attendants recommended that the middle seats stay open so that you can have your distancing. Okay, so this couple were the last two to come on the plane, and I guess they wanted to sit together. Maybe they were oblivious to the middle seat, whatever, and so they sat in a row that the window seat was already occupied with somebody. Okay. And so when the couple sat down, the lady at the window seat kind of got a little nutty, and I couldn't really hear what she was saying because she had her mask on and she was muffling, whatever, but she was like panicking as soon as they sat down. And then she got up, climbed over them, and, kind of caused a little bit of a scene, but then went and found, I guess, another seat that was open because the plane was full, and we take out the middle seat, every aisle and every window seat was going to be taken. And so I just thought that was kind of bizarre. Like, I understand that you want to, follow the rules and be safe, but to the point where you kind of cause a commotion, you kind of get this deep panic because somebody sat down next to you. If you want to move, that's fine. But it was like, the point of it was that there was this panic that set in, not because maybe the threat of being sick, but it was the violation of the rule that somebody sat in your middle seat that kind of triggered her. And have we gotten to the point now where we're kind of, you're talking about walking down the street. What do we do? I walked into a place on my way over here. I forgot my mask. And so I just wanted to grab a quick drink. And it was like, where's your mask? I'm like, I don't know. Can I just buy this and I'll be out in 30 seconds? It's gotten to the point where it's almost like we stress ourselves out so much because of the rules that we don't use common sense. And, Tara knows I like to think of things through common sense and reason that, like you say, if we walk outside, we're not going to just get sick and die from walking outside. There has to be an exposure. Somebody has to be sick or get us sick. Have we gotten to the point where we're kind of stressing ourselves out even more because of the panic that's going on?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're more stressed out because of the panic inside of us and the unknown than, anything really that's really happening right now. And of course, parents need to stay home with their children and be a teacher and, and work and a parent and stuff. That's on the other side. But yeah, I think that it's just important to understand that you can only do as much as you can do, throughout the day, and just make sure to take care of yourself. It's okay. I ran into the gas station and I totally forgot. I don't know. I think after all the riots and everything, my brain was just fried from all the trauma. And I ran inside of the 76 gas station to grab water. And the guy at the cashier, he was like, stop. And I looked at him. I was like, I am just buying water. I'm like, can you just ring me up just like that? Like what happened with you? And he goes, next time you need to have a mask on. He yelled at me. I was like, okay. If you didn't say all that, I would have been out of here 2 minutes ago. You know what I mean? So it was just, I think that, yes, sometimes, what happens within ourselves is that when we don't have enough information in our mind as to what is actually going on and what is real, reality versus myth, we tend to panic in ourselves. It's just a regular human being. We're trying to protect ourselves. But we also have to understand that by someone panicking like that, especially on the airplane, which you should not panic on an airplane. It's the worst place to panic, and it's already claustrophobic and people are already traveling and they're already scared and they're already anxious and so I think that when it comes down to, panic or anxiety coming up and something like that happening, it's important to just kind of stand up and maybe quietly go and tell one of the workers, can I just go move my seat? I don't feel comfortable, but not everyone is very mindful. Of course, we're all human. We kind of react. But yeah, absolutely. Panic is worse stress. It causes worse stress to your body than anything. You're just stressed out and everything's like firing, and you're not even, you're not even in your right state of mind to respond in a normal way.
So what does panic and anxiety do to your body that like kind of short circuits the normal processes that cause us to be able to think straight and react in ways that are quote unquote normal or healthy? Or
well, I mean, the first thing you have to realize that when you panic or when you're having anxiety, your mind just kind of goes into survival mode. And so you're just kind of like fight or flight, or freeze. So we wwere actually talking about this. We were talking about it at the front desk. We're like, oh my gosh, with everything going on, we've been like, oh, my brain is fried. We don't, because there's so much going on, and we've had so much anxiety, especially in the month of like March, when we were told that we have to stay home. Throughout that whole process, and then up and down, we thought COVID was going down, then the riots and this, that. Eventually what happens is that when you are panicking and when you're super anxious, especially if it goes into panic, anxiety goes into panic, your body and your mind go into survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, you can't make right decisions. So the first thing that gets affected is your decision-making skills.
So survival mode is basically taking yourself back to what's basic, right? Which is why we can't make higher level decisions, because that survival mode is what? Safety, personal safety, right? And it's also hunger. It's also, what are those basic survival?
It's basically your drives. And so your basic needs, which is safety and food.
Okay.
And then comes sex if you talk to Freud.
Yeah.
So like what drives you? And when you're super panicking, what drives you is, how do I survive? So what does that mean? Fight, flight, or freeze? And then some people would say faint.
Right.
Because some people
and so we're thinking about in that moment is our personal safety, or getting away from the danger, handling the danger, or if, sometimes San has been the recipient of my hangry, because sometimes I get really.
I always carry Snickers with me.
I'm like that too. I think it's a woman thing.
Yeah. I'm okay for a while, and then I get to the point where I'm just gonna like bite somebody's arm off. Like I'm super angry.
That's another survival memechanism. So like
only focus
and then
on
the
that.
minute you get food, it's like drug addiction.
Yes.
Right? When someone is addicted to drugs, or a drug, or whether it's alcohol or whatever it is, they will do anything and everything. They will get in harm's way in order to get to that drug. And so your drug is food at that time. The lady on the airplane, her drug is, oh my God, I need to get to safety. I don't even know where safety is because I'm on a plane. But the lady is just thinking, oh my God, everything that she's heard in the news is now coming back to her, and she's going, what do I need to do to survive, without even realizing she might be harming the person in front of her. So that's the beauty of panic and anxiety.
And you can't rationalize with someone in that state of mind. So if you see somebody panicking, we have to kind of let them.
Yeah, and the worst thing you can tell them is to calm down.
Yeah.
Never tell a person to calm down. If you ever see someone panicking or having anxiety, the number one thing is, first of all, you can give them a bottle of water. The minute, when they touch the bottle of water, and just tell them it's okay, I'm here. Just, it's okay, take a breath, and then take a breath with them. Look into their eyes, make sure they're alert, and just be very soft with them. Sometimes when people are having a panic attack, like we'll have it sometimes here at Hillside, where we'll be having a session, someone's having a panic attack, and that's the number one thing, is that's why we have water everywhere you look. We give them water. We tell them, take a breath. It's okay. They don't have to continue talking. And then we do a little bit of an exercise. It's a grounding exercise. It takes like 30 seconds to get them oriented, and then we bring them back. But it's just too much to do with the person on an airplane, or the person that's 76 and so forth. We just have to know. I think you can
ask to ground somebody. I actually have flooded. So there's another term for that. There's been in situations where I have gotten so overwhelmed. I was in a group session, I guess, a group therapy session years ago, and I completely flooded. I got so upset that I just was like starting to hyperventilate. I was panicking. I was like having this like attack. And so the therapist in the group, she did grounding techniques. And so she was asking me, what color is the wall, or what color is the floor? Tell me what you see, describe what you see. And it was a way to get my body to calm down and to refocus on something outside of, that panic. And I am so grateful for that experience, because when I was getting my master's degree in organizational leadership, we had some of our professors were therapists, and so we were in a group session one time. We have to go through at the beginning of this particular school, the Townsend Institute. They have like 5 days of group therapy that we have to go through, right? Because you can't help other people unless you have already helped yourself.
Absolutely.
So they were giving us some heavy duty therapy, and this girl started panicking. She started hyperventilating, and she was screaming, and she was like, I forget what it was that she was screaming, but she got really, really upset, and her hands started shriveling, and she couldn't breathe, and her face was turning clammy, and I'm like, oh, she's hyperventilating. So I told one of the other girls, I said, go get her some water. And then I got like totally just got in her face, and I just said, tell me what color my eyes are. Tell me what color my shirt is. And it took me a minute. Like, she was really like in another place, another world. But then eventually I was, I kept at it, and they were like rubbing her hands, and then we made her take a drink of water. And then finally she kind of came out of it. But even on an airplane, I'm assuming you could ask somebody some questions, right? Yeah. To get them jarred out of that momentary panic situation, to get them to refocus on something else.
Yeah, you could. Sometimes, though, what happens is that when people are in panic mode, especially if they're in that like fight or flight, they kind of don't see, everything is blurred.
Right.
And so maybe speaking louder.
Yes. I was yelling talking loud to that girl.
Saying their name. If you say their name, like, you automatically get someone's attention when you say their name. So just saying their name out loud will kind of get their attention, and then just, allowing them to calm down or give them water. It's so important that we know how to deal with panic, because it's unbelievable. We have 8-year-olds having panic attacks. An 8-year-old, and so learning that anxiety is normal, depression is normal. That's the one thing we like to teach kids. But when they're having panic, a panic attack, it's like you're almost like you don't have control over your body,
right?
And it just this feeling just takes over your body, and you don't know what to do. So I think that for a lot of us, especially during this time, taking one way of taking care of yourself when you know that you might struggle with panic or anxiety is every day making sure you carry water with you. Making sure, you're not watching things that are too stimulating to your brain, like the news. Oh, good God, please stop watching the news. Yeah. It's like the worst thing we can do. People watch the news when they wake up, and people watch the news when they go to sleep. The two worst times you can watch the news. I like to watch, I don't even watch the news. I read the news. Nothing like too popular. I like to kind of like do my research on like what I'm reading. But I have like 2 sources I'll kind of go to. And that's like midday when I'm totally bored and I don't have anything else to do, and I take 5-10 minutes. I kind of skim, is there anything important going on? Should I know? Because when you're on Instagram, the news is there. You're on Facebook, and news is there. Like, you're constantly knowing what's going on. But what I realized is that it used to be like older adults at home watching the news constantly. Now it's the whole family, including kids. So even though it's like background music, I think we were talking about this, even though it's background music, background noise, your unconscious is still pulling in the information. And so you got to like fill your mind with a little bit of like different things, like watch cartoons, watch movies, watch happy stuff, watch content stuff, read positive things. How many times can you hear about COVID?
Right.
It's like the same thing over and over again.
Right.
I think once you hear it in the week, you'll be updated.
Done.
I'm glad you said cartoons, because I recently went and found Laugh Olympics.
What is that?
It's Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear. It's a bunch of those cartoon characters that perform in Olympic style games. And then you have the Scooby Doobies, you have the Yogi Yahooies, and then you have the really rottens. And the really rottens like cheat all the time. And so
that's probably your team, right?
Yes. And so then you have like all these different like characters. So you have like Yogi and Boo Boo, and then you have Quick Draw McGraw, and you have like I said, Scooby Doo, and then you have like the people from Speed Buggy, all these cartoons, but they've merged them all together to have an Olympic style competition every week. And so sometimes I'll just sit back and watch that, and then people because I'll tell people this, and they'll be like, isn't that a little juvenile? I'm like, dude, that was my childhood. It's taking me back to some fun times. But I'm glad you said cartoons. I don't feel so bad about myself, because I actually do watch it.
Definitely watch cartoons.
I love watching that. Laugh Olympics. I think it's on Netflix or something like that.
Cartoons are
Laugh
awesome.
Olympics.
I watch a lot of classic movies. I also, my, vice for mindless entertainment is The Bachelor, Bachelorette. So, yeah, like anything that's mindless, that's fun, that's, you know, not serious, that you don't have to really process?
Yeah, I'm usually, when I watch reality shows, I'm like, I'm looking at the interior designing in the back.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, I like that pot. I like that vase. Like, you know, and then I'm like, oh, I can't wait till Home Goods opens up. So
right.
you automatically start to think about other things, you know, and so I think it's important for people to realize, to maybe get in touch with themselves and ask yourself, you know, what types of things did you like to do before COVID, before all that? Well, I like to go outside, but I'm terrified of going outside. Okay, but you can still go in your backyard. You know, if you don't want to walk around your neighborhood, what would you like to do? Do you want to play ball with your kid? Do you want to play with your dog? You want to go sunbathing outside? I don't know, something, you know. But cartoons, and my favorite are to watch like stand-up comedy, like awful stand-up comedy. So I'll just randomly like pick someone, and I'm just like, oh God, I feel so much better about my life right now. You know, but yeah, it's definitely nice to watch something that makes you laugh, because it automatically changes your mood.
Yes.
So.
We are here at Hillside Wellness Center. Dr. Irene Yaymadjian with us. PsyD, LMFT. Did I get it right?
You did?
I'm assuming the PsyD is a doctorate in psychology.
Yes, it is.
And then the licensed marriage and family therapist. You can actually find them online at hillsidewellnesscenter.org. And you can find out more information, but just want to let you guys know about that. And we're just kind of talking about self-care, taking care of ourselves, dealing with stress and things like that. And, you know, one of the things as you were kind of sharing some things, it's almost like we have to kind of somehow still live a normal life in abnormal times, because that keeps us grounded. I know during the initial lockdown stage, for example, everyone was staying home. Well, I discovered that with everybody being at home, the LA freeways were wide open.
It was the most amazing
It
thing.
was. And so stay home. COVID's not over. Stay home.
Stay home.
Stay home.
Don't go anywhere.
Still pretty amazing.
Gotta stay home.
The freeways are awesome.
So I would hit the road, and I would go down to like Long Beach, for example. And this was before the severe lockdown, when the restaurants were still kind of open and stuff.
We're not judging you. It's okay.
No. And, but they
I'm
will.
judging
Yeah,
you.
she does. She judges.
I wear the mask.
She's the judgmental one.
I don't walk in and say, ooh, I forgot my mask.
She would have the partition right here if she could, with a plexiglass. I went to Vegas, and then she came back, and she was like horrified that I actually left town. No, but there is some concern. But that was the thing. It was like I still got out, and I still tried to live. So, like for example, Ventura was still kind of open. Okay, LA County was shut down, but Ventura County was still more open. So I went up there for a day or a weekend. Or Orange County, you know, they were a little bit more open than LA. So I'd go down there. So I'd find the pockets of life that was more of a normal way of living, and I would just go down there and spend the day, and it got me out of this routine of being locked in the house. And so I tried to kind of live. And then the other thing someone asked me was, what else do you do? I'm like, well, we still continue doing our podcast. We still continued doing some of the things with this project that we would do before and hopefully after COVID. And so for me, part of it was just living a normal life as much as I could, minus going to the bars and stuff like that, because people think I'm an alcoholic, but I'm really not.
So he drinks at home instead.
Yes, I drink at home, watching Laugh Olympics, and it's a great evening.
He actually has really great beer videos if you follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, I really like your beer
thank
videos,
you.
actually. And they're so fun.
They're informational, and I love them.
I'm not even a beer drinker, and I was like, I should probably try that.
Yeah.
Try that. But that's a part of it, just kind of for me, doing normal things, because it kept me from really focusing on some of the other stuff. The one area that sometimes I kind of get lost in the abyss, which I sometimes do on purpose, is social media. Now, Instagram, like you mentioned, the beer stuff and some of those other things, you know, that's just me trying to have some fun and do some creative things and stuff like that. But it's when you get caught in the engagement, like, for example, on Facebook or some of those places where you can leave posts back and forth, that's where it continues. So you mentioned earlier watching the news. So cut out watching the news. But then also there's times where we are engaged in, like Facebook, for example, for a lot of people that are in Facebook, and arguing back and forth there. So there seems to be a relentless, endless cycle of just argument, inundated with the news, arguing some more, inundated with the news, and it's just
Which
on and
causes
on and on.
more
Exactly.
depression, anxiety, because of what we're looking at on social media.
Yeah, and families are like fighting with you. I deleted my Facebook. I just couldn't stand it. I mean, and I'm like, with a trained mind, you know, I'm a therapist, right? And you would think, oh yeah, I just couldn't. I was like, I can't do this. I deleted my Facebook. I just have professional pages up. And my Instagram, I go on Instagram maybe like once a day in the evening time. And it's just, I don't know. And like the lack of validity of things that people post on there, you know, and then you see people going back and forth. And for a minute there, I actually got caught up within myself. You know, I got really activated. I was like, what is going on? You know, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to worry about myself, and I'm going to just kind of let people do their own thing, because I need to not get triangulated in everything that's happening in the world. But I think that the whole social media component is so important to reduce in your life, because unless you have to be on social media, you know, I have friends who like do things on social media, they make money off social media. That's different. That's your job. But if it's not your job, God, we live in such a beautiful world. Yesterday I was looking outside of my balcony after being on my computer, and I was doing like some stuff, and I looked out my balcony. I'm like, God, my backyard is so beautiful. I haven't gone out in my backyard for 3 days. What's wrong with me? Because I'm working, you know? And so whether it's social media, whether it's, you know, working on your laptop, just like disconnecting from your, you know, electronics is just amazing. It's just amazing. I have a friend, he lives in England, and his name is Ryan, and I was talking to him, you know, like, maybe I'll talk to him like maybe 3-4 times a week. And every time I talk to him, like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm sunbathing. And I'm like, you're sunbathing? You live in England. Where are you sunbathing? Yeah. He's like, I just had some ice cream, and I have the radio on, and I'm sunbathing.
The Europeans live a totally different lifestyle. My daughter's been all over, and she's like, amazing. They are so relaxed and chill, and somehow they get things done, and if they don't, they don't.
Yeah, I'm like, so what did you do today? I'm just like trying to, you know, and he's like, well, I went to the store, and then I bought some ice cream, and then I'm tanned, and I've been tanning for like 3 hours. I'm like, is there anything else you did today? And he's just like, no, he goes, it's just very simple, you know. And I always tell him, I go, you live such a simple life. We could do that here too. We don't have to constantly be doing a billion things at once, but if we're not working, the last thing we should be is on our social media. It's just not a great place, and it affects people's self-esteem.
I'm pointing at Son.
Like, really bad.
Hey, you're not supposed to shame me.
No, is it affecting you? What's happening? Tell us.
No, I don't.
You have a therapist.
I don't think it's affecting me. Like I said, I'm like, okay, I was gone for like a week just on vacation, and the only thing I posted was some things about, like, I visited the first radio station that I worked at in Iowa, so I posted some things there because I had some former students that I would tell my stories about, and so I'd post pictures or video of me actually showing them the studio and the radio station and stuff, because it's out in the middle of a cornfield practically. And so things like that. And then, like you said, you know, like some of the beer things I do and just pictures and stuff. So I'm not really inundated with engagement with other people. It's just a creative outlet that I use it for.
We've talked about, I'm actually teasing him because we've talked about social media, and we've done an entire episodes, I think, right, on social media. And it's this catch-22 is that we want to feel like we belong. We want to feel like we're participating. But then we see so many things that are harmful. Whether or not we can't keep up with people and we feel embarrassed or ashamed because our life isn't, quote unquote, as good as somebody else's life, which in reality, social media life isn't real life anyway. So we're judging, I saw a quote, we're judging our life against someone's best picture they've taken in a year. Yeah. You know, and so it's not even a fair comparison. And so the detriments, you know, so, but like, you know, I have my phone in my hand all the time. And if I don't, then I find that I'm like, oh gosh, you know, where's my phone? And so I have trained myself for certain reasons, which would take us off in a completely different direction. Not that they're valid or invalid, but I have trained myself. But then also, everything is on there. Notes and pictures and research and, just emails and texts, and like everything is on there. So it's kind of like you can't help but not have it in your hand, because it's like, oh, I need to look up my calendar. I need to, whatever it is, it seems like it's going to go, you know, to your phone. But,
has it ever happened where I'm so sorry for cutting you off.
No, please.
But I was just wondering before you know how you have it in your hand and you're just like, you have your emails or whatever. Has it ever happened where you just automatically open Instagram and you don't even know why you opened it?
Yeah.
It's happened to me too.
And then we get these like alerts which don't help.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'm like, okay.
So-and-so posted a picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares?
Exactly.
It's like,
Yeah, it's just awful. So we've hit on a lot of different topics, and I know that you brought some notes. You have a list of some 5 things that we can do to.
Well, one quick thing too, okay, because one of the things that I liked about social media is Hillside Wellness Center's Instagram. You guys post things on there, like little, not necessarily pictures of you guys, but helpful notes, helpful things. Like one time, and I forget what they were off the top of my head, but you had like the 3 Gs, or, if you wake up in the morning, think something positive, and then, so you're just kind of giving these little tips and advice on how to kind of maneuver your day to make it feel a better day. So I think that there is some validity to that in social media where, people are putting stuff out there that can be helpful and beneficial, because it does. You're going through your day, and sometimes just the validation of, oh, you know what? Okay, I'm going to stop and think. It's okay for me to think positive of myself. It's okay to think, oh yeah, I look good today. Or one of the things I've been going through was before COVID, I lost like 60 pounds, and so I was feeling really good. But because of COVID, I've kind of put some of that back on. So originally I was thinking to myself, oh, this is a bad thing. And then I started to think, okay, you know what? I lost it once. I can do it again. So I'm not going to be guilty about it, but I can still feel good about myself because of some of the other things that I'm doing. Like, okay, I'm getting out and going for a walk a little bit more now because I can, or I'm, still not in my size 40 pants or whatever, so there's still those accomplishments that I made. And so it's still okay to feel good about ourselves, even though we might have, going through this abnormal time. But I think it's important to also be reminded sometimes that it is okay to think about ourselves and to kind of be selfish that way. Okay. Instead of turning on the news right away, let me just take a few minutes to think about what I want my day to be like. Let me think about what I'm thankful for today. Okay. My family. Okay. I've got this nice backyard. I might go sit out and sunbathe for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, and start to formulate some of those things. And I think that's kind of where, for me, sometimes social media is helpful, because you can get these little nuggets of advice and information that makes the day helpful and kind of reinforces some of the things that I might be feeling.
Yeah, and I think that that's an excellent point, is that we can be purposeful. If we're going to use social media, we can be purposeful in it. So we can choose accounts or choose people to follow who are giving out helpful information and things that make us think, things that make us turn our thinking over to something a little more positive, because we can purposely follow people who are salacious or who we feel competitive with, and it makes us feel bad about ourselves, or we can purposely follow accounts that lift us up and make us feel better. So again, that could also be a form of self-care, is if I'm going to have this device and if I'm going to have these accounts, what is it that I'm allowing into my brain? Am I just looking at junk? Am I looking at a bunch of women in bathing suits all day long? Or am I looking at things that are going to help me to move forward and to actually be a better person?
I think what you're saying is that we have a choice. And
yes.
A lot of people don't feel like they have a choice.
Yes.
I always say, I try to teach people there's 2 ways that things go inside your mind and your body. Mm-hmm. And first, your mind, of course, is your eyes and your ears, unless, you're eating something. But 2 ways that things go inside your mind, into your psyche, are your eyes and your ears, what you're listening and what you're watching. Mm-hmm. And then once it goes in your mind, then it has an effect on your body. Mm-hmm. So it either stresses you out or it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we have to remind ourselves that we have a choice as to, yes, exactly how you said, who we follow and who we decide to block and who we, decide to, what is it got? Regram? I feel like I'm like 100 years old.
Like repost or whatever, retweet.
Is it Instagram? Is that what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
Regram, or whatever, or what we actually decide to post on our page. So yeah, I'm very strict as to what goes on Hillside's page, what goes on my page, what goes on all of our interns' pages, because I'm so annoying. I'm like that supervisor where I'm like, okay, let's take a look at my trainees' pages. What have they posted? And I it's also teaching them how to be professional. And so what you put out there is kind of like what you're attracting back to yourself and how people see you. And considering everyone judges you based off your social media, if you put a certain image out there, you put certain words out there, they're going to see you that way. And so I think being mindful of who you follow, that was such a good point. Like who you follow, you have a choice. You can delete certain things, you can repost other things, and what you post on your page, is very, very important. And I think that, yes, you're right. sorry, we were totally making it a negative thing to be on social media, but most of it is negative. But
True.
But no, you are right. There are many things. Like I love following, like the entrepreneurship, like entrepreneur, like alpha male pages, because they always have such amazing quotes, and they're just like, oh, did you know at 23, Walt Disney was, bankrupt and blah.
Yes.
Like, oh, I have a chance, So these are the things that I love to follow. And so just kind of filling your brain with, having a choice of like what you see and what you hear is very important, and knowing that you're not stuck. You don't constantly have to look at models online and compare your body to theirs, or somebody's hair or somebody's house or where they were on vacation. That's not what Instagram is all about, but it's kind of like what you make of it.
I like to think of people comparing their bodies to mine. That makes me feel good.
Yeah, I'm sure it makes them feel good too.
Makes me feel good. I kind of twist it around. So me comparing myself to others, I'm like, they're going to compare themselves to this pit. It'll make some people feel bad about themselves right about now.
I remember you told me you lost 60 pounds. That's amazing.
Yeah.
We used to play softball together.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
I don't remember you being 60 pounds over.
Well, that was from the time that we played until about a year ago.
Oh.
It was kind of the increase and then the loss. But yeah, and that was the other thing, when even back in the stressful days of radio, which is now iHeartMedia, getting out there and playing softball once a week, I think we all kind of look forward to that because it was a release, it was an outlet, there was camaraderie, there was fun, and even on top of that, there were people from different departments, because you had, DJs from different radio stations, you had promotions people from different radio stations, you had, all these different kinds of people from all over the company that came together and played, and it was this uniting, not only playing softball and having that release and that fun of activity, but it was also joining all these people. So then when you got back to work and you saw these people in the hallway, you were like, hey, how's it going? And you're talking softball and doing some fun stuff. And so that even created a better work environment than what might have been because of the softball team. Yeah. And how we came together.
I missed that.
Yeah,
I was in grad school during that time, and I couldn't wait to have a bat in my hand on Mondays.
Yeah. Those were fun.
Yes. All my stress is going out. I don't care if I make it or not. I just want to hit the ball or want to swing a bat. But it was definitely something that was actually on my list of 5 things to how to take care of yourself, is just have a plan for at least once a week to do something that you look forward to. It's so important. So, whether it's meeting with someone, FaceTiming with someone, going out and getting coffee, we can still do that now. We can do it with our masks on. You can, it's not like they said we can't walk outside. Whether it's playing a game, whatever it is, just have a plan that you look forward to towards the end of the week, which is really, really nice, because sometimes I can't tell you how often during this quarantine time I was like, what day is it again today?
Oh, I've been the worst. Like I have, and plus, not only have we been off, everything has been mixed up during quarantine, but then my husband decided to start taking Fridays off. I am completely discombobulated. Yeah. Because every week he's home on Friday, and I'm like, okay, so now my whole rhythm is off, my routine, and I really don't know what day it is anymore. So I'm thinking that every day is Tuesday, and it's not. Yeah. And I'm like, what day are we on again?
Yeah, I remember I woke up my boyfriend one Sunday, and I was like, you're supposed to be at work. And he's like, it's Sunday. I was like, oh, that's right. I looked at my phone. I was like, oh my God, you overslept. I was like, you're supposed to be at work. But yeah, it was really, really, it throws you off. And that's why humans need some sort of a structure. Mm-hmm. As a human being, you can't just live, your head in the clouds all the time. You need some sort of structure, because structure brings safety into your life. And safety makes your anxiety go down. That's the only reason why we get anxious. Mm-hmm. You get anxious because you don't feel safe. You feel like you don't have control. So when you feel like you have control and you feel safe, your anxiety will decrease immediately.
So let me ask you this. If someone is suffering from anxiety, and let's say they are on medication for anxiety and depression, and they're in the thick of that, and it's so hard to say when they're in that depressive or that anxiety state, okay, we have to get a routine, or there has to be some structure, or we need to go outside and walk around the block every day or something. It's so hard for that person to assimilate that information until they do something about it. When they're clear-headed, it's like, oh yeah, of course, it makes total sense. Yeah. But then you can't, it's hard to develop a structure from that state. So what would you recommend if you say, like, if you have a loved one or someone who's suffering from like severe depression, anxiety, they're on medication, the medication's working like so, but then what would you say to the people around them to help them get out of that anxiety state into a structure, into some normal routine and some purpose?
I think that so typically when someone has anxiety, majority of the time there's also kind of an underlying depression or depressive symptoms that actually contribute to, you know, not being able to follow through with things throughout the day, unless there's some ADD or something like that. So whenever I have a patient and let's say they're struggling with anxiety and depression, or just anxiety or just depression, whatever it is, just a human being who just struggles with kind of living day to day and having some sort of structure, you got to start off small. You got to start off really, really small. It's like going to the gym. So you don't go to the gym and just start, you know, lifting 100-pound weights. You go to the gym, you lift 1 pound.
You do.
Well, Son does apparently, but
multiple reps, multiple sets.
But no, you have to go. You start off with 1 pound. You know,
Okay.
and then you boost up to like 2 pounds and then 5 pounds. And so every day you have to kind of ask yourself, okay, what is one thing today that I can get done? Like, what's my goal for the day to get done? Not a selfish goal, but to get done. So, or what is one thing that I can incorporate in my day every day for the next 5 days? If you can't do 5 days, 3 days. You know what I mean? So then you build. I always like to tell my patients, listen, choose something that's not hard, because a lot of us are overachievers and we want to do big things and make big things happen, and we can't wait, especially in the, you know, in our like culture and the you know, 2020, we're just like, you know, now or never, and we got to get it started. So it's very important to start small, something tiny, whether it's waking up and doing 3 Gs, you know, in the morning, or waking up and just starting every single day for the next 3 days, having your coffee outside without your phone. Okay. That's one thing. So if you do it for 3 days, then you're falling into a little bit of a habit. So 21 days to make or break a habit. Sometimes people can't do, you know, the 21 days full on. You start with 3, then you go to 5, then you go to 7, and you build upon that.
Got it.
So a lot of good things are to write things down that you want to do, and then check them off. People like to check off things. A lot of moms like that.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of moms, and they love checking stuff off.
Yeah.
The list.
And if it's not on the list and I did it, then I put it on the list and then check it off.
Yes, it feels even better. You know, you're like, oh, I forgot that. I even have a list because I have so much to do, I'll like forget. But yeah, that's one of the ways. So, and also coming to therapy every week, routine. There you go. You know your therapist is going to be there. I'm not going anywhere. Even if you don't show up, I'm still sitting here waiting for you. You know, and it's nice to know that structure, that safety is there. So it takes some time. We're humans. We're very fragile creatures. But
So what are the 3 Gs again?
So the 3 Gs are grateful, good, and goal. I like to do grateful first. So in the morning you wake up. You don't have to do it necessarily in the morning, but I like to do it in the morning. So I'll wake up in the morning before I get out of bed, before I reach for my phone, before anything. I just say, what is one thing I'm grateful for today? So what is one thing you're grateful for today?
Our podcast.
Very good. What is one thing you're grateful for today?
Air condition.
Excellent. Yes, I just turned on, heard your voice. What is one thing that's going good in your life?
I think the fact that I have a healthy perspective on, because life has thrown me curveballs lately, and I'm talking outside of COVID and some of the stuff going on with job-related stuff, and I think I have a healthy perspective on handling where I'm going in life.
Very good. And what is one thing that's going good in your life?
Probably one step in front of the other. Things are a little murky right now, so things are moving forward, not as well as what I would like, but they're still moving forward. So that is, yeah.
Very good. Sometimes if you can't think of something, well, that's a big thing, right? You're looking at, like, for instance, like grateful. A lot of people will be like, well, I don't know, there's nothing really to be grateful. And I say, well, do your arms work? Do your eyes see? Can you smell? Can you walk? You know?
Right.
So just even the simplest, like, oh, I love my sheets in my bed. They're so soft. You know, something simple as that is still being grateful. So, okay. And what is one selfish goal you have for yourself today? It can't be work related or anything, just selfish you.
A selfish goal today might be to actually go home and grab a beer and listen to music for the duration of the consumption of that adult beverage.
Perfect. That is the most selfish goal I've ever heard. No, I'm kidding. It's great.
I could be selfish.
I like it. No, I like it. I like it. What's one selfish goal you have for yourself today? Doesn't have to be huge. Something.
Yeah, today probably it's not going to happen. But if I could make it happen, because I have other things scheduled, I would sit down and watch a movie, turn a classic movie. I would watch an old classic movie and uninterrupted, with no noise, no questions, no.
So the
phone calls.
first thing you have to do is that the goal that you set for yourself, you have to make it happen. So it has to be even simpler than that. If you think it might not happen, it could be something like, I'm going to wash my face when I get home and take 2 minutes just to myself in my room with no one there. Even that can be a goal. Or taking a bath, or having ice cream, or getting a drink from Starbucks. You know what I mean? Very, very simple. We got to simplify our days.
Okay.
So in the morning, you wake up. One thing I'm grateful for, one thing that's going good in my life, one goal I have for the day. And with the goal, I like to have a theme for the day. So for instance, today's theme for me is just peace. So everything I'm doing today is going to feed peace, because I just need a lot more peace in my life today, or else I'm just always running.
Okay.
Right? So you could have a theme in your day. You know, if you can't, even if you're so busy you can't do the 3 Gs, let's say you're super busy and you just can't, what's the theme of today? Like, what do I want to focus on today? What do I need in my life today? I need peace. I need strength. I need support, whatever it is. And then you remind yourself throughout the day. And it's just a little tiny mindful exercise, but it really helps a lot of people. So those are the 3 Gs. I had 5 things. You want me to go ahead and
just go ahead and read down those 5, and then I have a question for you.
Sure. So number 1 is say no. I love saying no now. It's like my favorite thing to do. No.
Which is funny because isn't that the first thing that little kids learn? When you tell them to do something, they're like, no. Or
maybe these days.
And then we take things. And then we take it away from them, and then we have to relearn it as an adult.
Yeah.
Right. But saying no, I've heard, is a great way to test the health of your relationship, because if a person takes your no well, then you know that you have a strong relationship. And if they do not like your no and they have a fit and yell at you, then you need to let that person go.
Very, very, very true. Yes. It's saying no is such an important thing because it teaches you assertiveness. The second part to saying no is stop saying I'm sorry and replace that with thank you. I cannot remember where I saw this, but it was like years ago, and I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. So for example, if you guys were, actually like last, 2 weeks ago when you guys came to my office, I was like, oh crap, I bet you heard me in my office. But, instead of me rushing out and going, I'm so sorry. It's going, thank you so much that we can reschedule this. Thank you so much for waiting me. Thank you so much for not being mad at me. You know what I mean? Because when you say I'm sorry, you automatically feel small.
Okay.
You feel inferior. So saying no, replacing I'm sorry with thank you. Sleep. Don't feel guilty about sleeping. Don't think you're lazy for sleeping. Yes, you might be a little depressed these days because life changed. And change sometimes brings a little bit extra depression and anxiety. Sleeping is so important. It's like one of the most essential things you can do ever. Do you get enough sleep?
I do. I think so. I try.
Do you get enough sleep?
I do.
Good.
Pretty much,
Good.
yeah. Unless the dog is pacing at 3 a.m, then I don't. But yes, other than that, yes.
And so avoid guilt. When I work with a lot of women, and the first thing they'll tell me is, oh God, I feel so guilty. I had chocolate cake, or I had a Starbucks. And I say, did you have it? And they're like, yeah. I go, did it taste good? They're like, yeah. And I said, so what's the point of feeling guilty? Well, I should not have had it. I said, listen, you're either going to have it and just have it, like just enjoy whatever you're eating, or don't have it at all. You have a choice. I go, so if you had it, enjoy it. Be proud that you had it, and then you have another choice tomorrow. So don't give yourself unnecessary guilt, that you know that you already did something, you can't go back and redo it. So.
Right.
The other thing is, as I said, make a plan once a week. There's something to look forward to. When you do the 3 Gs, it has you something tiny to look forward to every day, which is really nice. And lastly is the 3 Gs.
And again, remind everybody the 3 Gs.
One thing I'm grateful for, one thing that's going good in my life, and one selfish goal I have for myself. So it's grateful, good, goal.
And then one final thing as we kind of wrap up, a lot of people think that they come to visit somebody, a therapist, and it's a sign of weakness. They're like, I'm going to take care of myself. I can do it on my own. I don't need anybody's help. That's not at all what it is. I've learned over the years that sometimes just being able to talk to somebody who's like an independent person that's not in the environment, not in your life, can be a good thing. Sometimes you just need someone to listen. Sometimes, there are things that advice you can offer. But if you can just maybe quickly in a couple minutes just kind of address the idea that, talking to somebody isn't necessarily a sign of weakness or a bad thing, but in fact can be a healthy, good thing that can help you get over whatever it is that you're going through, even if it's just the littlest thing of life that happens to be going on right now.
Absolutely. And there's two components to this. So this is individual therapy, and then the other component is couples work. So a lot of times right now, especially a lot of couples who will contact me, I'm very picky of what couples I work with because I need to make sure I'm the best fit. And so I always tell them, because it's always no offense, but it's always the male that says, well, if we're having these issues right now, we're not married, then why would we? Well, this is the thing. So it's preventative. Okay, so you don't want to get married to someone and you didn't go to therapy because you were feeling like you should do it on your own. You should be able to work on it on your own. It's actually very healthy to go to premarital therapy to talk about things that are really uncomfortable and to get it out of the way, learn how to communicate and see if you could communicate, then to get married. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love that.
Wait and then get married and then typically couples come to therapy when it's way too late. They're on the verge of getting divorced. The second thing is actually it takes a very strong person to come to therapy. It takes strength within a person to ask for help, to put their ego aside and say, I need help. Mm-hmm. Therapy nowadays is not it's not like Freud and Carl Jung were therapists, you know what I mean? Or they were psychiatrists or therapists. It's not like you're crazy to come to therapy. You can come to therapy and have a safe place where you can talk about what's going on. Figure out your life. You don't have to be in therapy for years. You could be if you'd like, but I think what I would suggest is that every person give themselves 10 sessions with a therapist and, just be open and honest and just give yourself space to hear yourself. Mm-hmm. Because that's literally our job. Our mind and ear is trained to help you understand yourself and learn about yourself. So
HillsideWellnessCenter.org is where we're at today. Dr. Irene Yaymadjian, the PsyD and a licensed marriage family therapist. And then again, HillsideWellnessCenter.org is where you can find out more information, and your Instagram if you want to send people to your Hillside Wellness Center Instagram. You want to share that?
Yeah, it's Hillside_wellness. And my Instagram is at Dr. Irene Yay. I never share my Instagram. I always forget it.
And you can find me at Edem Rocks, EIDEMROCKS, and the show at 2 Steps Ahead Podcast.
And I am at Tara Hokeschiro, TaraHokeschiro. And if you go to my Instagram, you can click on the link in my bio. That will take you to a library of our podcast videos, the blog, and most important, our swag shop. You can buy podcast, I want to say memorabilia, but it's not memorabilia.
Merchandise.
It's merchandise. Thank you. My brain is not working. You can buy merchandise for the show. Just go to my Instagram, click on the link, and you can also find that on our 2 Steps Ahead podcast page as well.
I want to say one more thing. Yep. All therapy until the rest of the year at Hillside is $25 for everyone until January. And then after January, we go back to regular income based. But we always make sure people could afford therapy. So if you know someone who needs therapy, it's $25. And if they really need us to work on that, we will also do that.
And again, all the information, contact information, things like that can be found at hillsidewellnesscenter.org. Hey, thanks for listening. Do tell a friend. Take your passion. Make it happen. Let yourself be great. Be kind and
don't be an asshole or a-hole. Let's try that one more time.
Be kind and
don't be an a-hole.
There you go.
And stop shitting on yourself.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, and do tell a friend.